Welcome to RAD Journeys, the place for in-depth conversations with incredible creators in the sci-fi audio drama world. From authors to producers, we explore their journeys, creative inspirations, and the secrets behind their success in crafting immersive audio fiction. My name is Carrie, and today I am talking to Sky of Dirt and Dust.
Hey, it's Skylar. I thought it was best to insert a little bit of a primer before the video. As you could probably tell by the video you're about to see, things have changed. I bought a house and I'm preparing a new studio, but above all, we've definitely changed the story you're about to hear about. Our show Dirt and Dust, which was originally conceptualized as a spin-off of Omega Star 7, we've kind of changed it to be its own thing, less of a science fiction story and more of a steampunk fantasy settled in the world of Bastion. We felt it was best to kind of keep the interview as it was instead of re-recording it because ideas change and that's part of the process. But a lot of the thoughts we have, we both think at least, hold a lot of weight. So I hope you enjoy it, and I hope to hear your thoughts for our new show, Crimson Chronicles, when it comes out. Take care and enjoy.
Hi, Sky. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Great. Thank you for joining me on RAD Journeys.
I'm happy to be here.
So we're here today to talk mostly about your upcoming production, Dirt and Dust.
Yes, we are.
Would you mind giving just a short introduction of what it is?
It's like a space western audio drama that kind of follows like a war-torn planet where everyone's kind of driven underground, and the only people that kind of live on the surface are people that can either live in prefabricated homes or travel across different underground places on the overworld in mechs, giant tanks that walk. And it's pretty much the drama and lore that kind of goes with that. So it's kind of like a Western mixed with a post-apocalyptic, space setting.
I'm a big fan of Omega Star 7, and it's definitely space opera Western.
Yeah.
But with names in Dirt and Dust of Warren and Scarlet, it seems like it's even more space Western. What else do you think will be different about Dirt and Dust from Omega Star 7?
Well, we have a 3-part episode out that came out last year, and we're 2 episodes into writing. We just wrapped up the second episode of like the first draft of the second episode. First thing that comes to mind is that it's much longer and slower and dramatic. Omega Star 7 was very quick, and it's very, when you would listen to Omega Star 7, it kind of became an experience to listen to it. Like it was what is happening today, and this is more a continuation of a story that's fueled by character development and kind of just a very desolate setting that kind of goes hand in hand with the themes of a Western story.
I appreciate the slower pace and the deeper world building. I really enjoyed Omega Star 7, but it's really punchy and quick.
Yes, it is.
And I felt like if I got distracted by my kids, I didn't know what was happening.
I know that. I heard that a lot. I heard it was very much like it was tough to find a place to listen to Omega Star 7. I had people say I tried the grocery store. There's just so much happening that I can't. And you're in the car, but we all know like listening to an audio drama in the car is a hit or miss, because if your car is not super quiet and the dynamics of the audio just don't fit with the 4 speakers in the car, or more if you have more, it's just kind of hard to listen to. But you can't listen to it before bed because there's too much happening, so you have to be, so when do you listen to it, you know what I mean? Hence why Omega Star 7 is so short and quick, because we want to give people a chance to listen to it quickly and not have to forget things.
Well, the good thing is you can jump in pretty much anywhere, though, too. I mean, I've jumped around a lot, and it still makes sense no matter where you come in, which is nice. But yeah, I'm excited at the idea that Dirt and Dust might get more into the world and have a little longer story around the characters, and it's not just so, To me, Omega Star 7's like trying to listen to Guardians of the Galaxy.
It does feel like that. We've always got Guardians of the Galaxy was one of the biggest similar types of stories, and it's very true. I mean, it's very bombastic. There's a lot happening, and you really just listen to it for the fun. Like, there's lore to be had there if you want to find it, but really it's about the story that's happening right then and there, where I think Dirt and Dust is a little more introspective. You really could sit down and think about what it's like to live there, or it really sits in the world. There's a lot of scenes where they just kind of talk about what it's like to live there, which is, I think, important in a story like that to really get people in.
That the planet was this desolate space planet. It definitely has more of the Western vibe, and maybe that makes people think more about the themes that Western space operas usually encapsulate like that too. Yeah, like, scarcity, desolation, struggling to survive, a little more rustic that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm wondering, what parts of the production are you solely, and where do you collaborate? And is it different in Dirt and Dust?
Omega Star 7 has always been its collaboration, because when it started, it was, it was my story, and it was a tabletop RPG, and then it kind of turned into an audio drama a year after that first 8-episode kind of romp. I mean, I did a lot of the work behind the scenes. I mean, at the beginning, it was just me producing. It was just me doing all the music. Today in Omega Star 7, it's 5 people, up to 5 people get around in a Discord call, or if we're lucky enough to do it in person, we do that too. We work through the episodes. We make sure it feels good. And I'm just there to kind of do the George Lucas thing and keep it feeling like it's, keeping it feeling it's Omega Star 7. But in reality, I kind of devolved into the final production and the, sound design, music, final production, and writing. But I'm not the only writer. I'm not even the only writer in Dirt and Dust. I mean, Dirt and Dust, it's me and my partner, James, and he and I present most of the ideas, and he's there to really clean them up, clear them out, make them feel. He's very good as a sounding board. He really sits there and can offer a lot of interesting thoughts, and it helps kind of make things a little more solid in the story. I still do all the music, and I foresee that's continuing with Dirt and Dust. He does pre-production, and I usually do the post-production. So he'll assemble everything, add any kind of sound effects he think would sound good, and then I'll take it, do more sound effects, do all the panning, the EQing, and then I'll, put music to it. I'll write the music, put it to it, and then take it to the end zone. So.
Wait, that went really quickly. Did I just miss that you composed all the music for Omega Star 7 also, and will continue to do so in Dirt and Dust?
Yes, so I there's like 3 times in Omega Star 7 that I didn't compose the music. There's one, we did one as an Easter egg, which was our friends over in Gather the Suspects. We did like a murder mystery episode, so we asked them to give us their permission to use their theme song as the theme song for that episode. And that was fun. Then I pulled a random royalty-free thing off Epidemic Sound, who's our typical sound. We usually source all our stuff through Epidemic Sound. We used a song on there that was, I just couldn't play banjo, and I really wanted a banjo for something, so I did that. Other than that, there's the 2 times that come to mind that I didn't do the music, but like all the sound design, the droning, the songs, like that song we did in the most recent season. What was it? Night Flyer, that song. I obviously didn't sing it, but I wrote all the lyrics, wrote the melody line, and had someone sing for me because I'm not Moxie Rebel. I could not sing that. So for Dirt and Dust, it's just a different instrument. Omega Star 7 is very synthesizer focused, whereas like Dirt and Dust is more guitars and mandolins, banjos with a little bit of electronic, feelings in there.
Oh, that's very cool.
So,
yes. Oh, I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
I'm really excited at the idea that there may be an opportunity to collaborate with you on music.
Yeah.
I love the music scores in Omega Star 7. Sorry, I can't speak all of a sudden.
It's okay.
I'm going to have a drink of coffee and edit this. How's that?
It's perfect. Take your time.
Thank you. Okay. So, sorry, to continue. Obviously, I'm really excited because I fumbled even saying it. I'm excited at the idea of collaborating with you over the music because I love your music. And when you posted samples to a group that we participate in of synthwave for just space opera in general, I love your style. I think it's really cool. The idea that you're moving into using actual string instruments of guitar and mandolin is really exciting, and I can't wait to hear samples for that.
It'll be fun.
When I listened to Omega Star 7, I got the distinct impression, especially with episode 1, that what happened is it just came organically. You have a bunch of friends in a garage around a table pulling voices, and you're like, we can make this a story. Let's add music and effects and turn this into something. And something I like about your style so far, because this is going to be your second major production, right?
Yeah.
Is that it's really natural. The humor's natural, the conversation and dialogue's natural, and it really does seem like something that's just play.
Yeah.
And I love that. Can you tell me, is that correct? How did Omega Star 7 come to be?
So, like I said, that's really, the story is really simple. I mean, you can still hear those original 8 episodes on Patreon and Apollo, but, we were playing a tabletop role playing game. I set out to do an actual play because at that time I was really into like the D&D TikTok community. I was actually part of that for a while, and I wanted to make like an actual play podcast. And I
Oh, cool.
used I don't have it with me around. It's around here somewhere, but I was Fantasy Flight makes an RPG called Star Wars. It's a Star Wars role playing game. It uses dice. I actually have some right here, which you can see on the video. It's these proprietary dice, and it's very thematic. And they ended up making a new RPG called Genesis, which is the same rule set but without Star Wars. It actually gives you a whole book on how to make your own world, and I used it. I made Omega Star 7. I had 4 of my best friends in person: Caleb, Christian, Alex, who plays Skeeks in both productions, but both the original and the remake. And I had Joe, who plays Saul, and he plays Tiberius. So, those 4 guys and me, we just had fun for that first story. And then I had my daughter at that time at the end of that. And then we really couldn't just make the time happen. It took weeks of production. So took a total break. About a year later, the guys couldn't all make it back. Lives were just too messy. And I said, well, I don't want to redo it. I want to continue it. So I took what little lore was introduced, had my friend James, who I had just met, started a band with pretty much, and Joe come back, and we just said, how do we continue this with new characters and then as an audio drama? And that's what happened. So to condense all of that, it's just taking it as it comes, punches. So we started with collaboration and just whatever the world throws at us. I mean, if you pay attention, we pulled a very sitcom thing. Joe couldn't make it for a few weeks, months actually. He was just lots of life stuff happening for him. So we just made his character hibernate for like 8 episodes.
That's very D&D appropriate,
and,
right?
He just couldn't make it. We brought back one of my oldest friends, Luna, who played one character in one episode, but it's one of my oldest friends. I've known her since I was in 5th grade. And we had her play Calamastros again, taking over that 3rd place, that 3rd character, while Saul just kind of slept in a different room. And we decided, at that point, we're like, let's start making this a serious story. Still humorous and absurdist, but then it kind of just, to the end, like it pretty much. Like we got not tired of, but we felt that we had kind of ran the meter on being wild and bombastic, and we really wanted, because the story itself wasn't centered around being wild and bombastic. It wasn't like Hitchhiker's Guide. It was still a very serious undertone story. So we decided to just take it to the end zone, which was another 20 episodes, but we did it. So the story
of
really
Omega
changed
Star
pace
7 towards the end. Yeah. I think it wrapped up really nicely, and I like that the pace changed a little bit towards the end, and that the characters were definitely different, and there was a lot of tying up some of the story in the world there that I appreciated. I think it's a little bit ironic that Dirt and Dust also is D&D, right? So now you have a big D&D production.
So the joke was we would do like an episode of Omega Star 7 where they played D&D, and we'd call it Quest and Quasars. I do like,
and then that's its own production.
Yeah, like it's I always felt that there's no way around it. D&D is why I'm at any level of good or bad or whatever kind of writer you think I am. It's all because of D&D. It's all because of that collaborative storytelling. It's helped shaped how I look at how to tell a story, making things feel natural. And I think without D&D, I think anyone can be a good writer if they play enough D&D. That's a real thought. You just have to.
It's a
patience.
very cool backstory, and those of us that love D&D appreciate that. And every kid says that. I was telling my parents, "Look, I've got to be able to play it because it's going to help me be a better writer."
It's true.
But the truth is, it does.
Yeah.
I mean, the proof is in the pudding now.
Yep. Oh, absolutely.
So, what is the most difficult aspect of production for you?
especially now with Dirt and Dust.
I actually wrote notes. So this is something because like, there it is, time constraints. So we promised we would do this. We would get this done in 2024, and it's still going to happen. We're not going to break a promise. We never have broken a promise, no matter what. Being, you know, a person, like I have a very intensive job, and, you know, it's not like me and James can meet up like we used to in person, just have a few drinks and hang out and type together. Now we have to be on a phone call like this, and we have to work through a script, and we try to do 2 scenes every time we meet up. Maybe it's twice a week, and then I'll write a bunch of stuff when he's not around, just so that we can go back through it. But it's the time constraints and it's the writing. That's the hardest part of production, is you want to make sure it's perfect. And on top of that, the best part about writing and creating a show is time constraints, because it doesn't allow you to overthink your process. So the best is also the worst, you know, giving yourself obstacles and borders and boundaries to make sure that you don't give yourself too much free reign or too much room to grow, because we've all seen a tree that's given free reign to grow wherever it wants. It just takes over an entire yard. So it's all about gardening. But yes, finding the time to meet up with people to write is probably the hardest part of the production.
Well, and you mentioned George Lucas earlier, and wasn't it him, and I could be misquoting, but he said, no production's ever finished. No writing is ever finished. No production's ever finished. You set your deadline and you release when you get to your deadline.
have
You
been,
make
yeah.
sure your boxes are checked, and then that's it.
That
You know,
is,
because-
well, and I can't confirm that was him, but it sounds like something he would say. I will add on to that. Like, there's no such thing as perfect. And, you know, you'll just keep working at something until you hate it, and then you won't release it.
and then you won't release it. Yeah.
Perfect is done. That is what perfect is. You know what I mean?
Right.
And the idea that there's a masterpiece in you, no one can make a masterpiece. It's other people who make something a masterpiece. Like, people will call your work a masterpiece. It's like David Lynch's Eraserhead. You know what I mean? Like, we watched that movie. I don't think David Lynch thought he was onto something when he made Eraserhead. I think he just let it out. And then everyone else was like, that was a masterpiece.
Fair enough. And I think you have to have the mindset that you can correct it next round. You know, it's like move forward. If there's something you want to change, try to change it the next round. But
Exactly.
you've got to let done be done. Yeah.
I agree.
Well, on that note, what's your favorite part of production? Is there something that you would like to focus solely on and outsource the rest?
If I had my own way, I love 2 things in both Omega Star 7 and Dirt and Dust. It's world building and doing the composing. It's, you know, those 2 things. I love making really in-depth characters. I love writing, but like, at the end of the day, if I had to pick what I was going to do, I'd present a world, and then I would let other people write the story in the world, and I would just be there to make sure it all makes sense, and then I would write the music for it. That's what I find is the most fun for me, because I am a musician. I was a musician. I have been for over 20 years. So that is what I do. So I'd love to continue doing it.
Both of those are setting the theme of the world.
Yep.
You know, one is the plot theme and one is the mood. And so it makes sense to say, okay, all the characters inside my world can interact with, actually that's dungeon mastering right there.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like I'll set up the world and I'll be the extraneous, theme and the main plot. Everyone else can act their characters as they will within it, which is pretty cool. Speaking of which, do you direct your voice talent or do you give them free reign?
I usually let them do carte blanche. You do whatever you want. I think it'll be different in Dirt and Dust. I think I'll be much more, if I don't direct directly, I will be casting a lot more stringently. It used to just be, we'll cast whoever we want and then we'll go from there. But now we have these like really in-depth characters with very specific motivations. So it's because it's such a character-driven story that we want to make sure that every part about it is very deliberate. So I would say I used to not do direction, but I foresee there being a couple more like like I need you to redo this line for me just because it's a little, but I've always been very have fun with it because I've picked you for a reason. Do you know what I mean? So
Have they ever surprised you? Just recorded off lines that you love and ended up including?
Some of my favorite lines have been totally improvised. Most of them come from W. Keith Timms. His character on
Shout out.
Omega Star 7 is one of my favorite characters, and he always
Yes.
surprises us with the most hilarious and off-putting humor that you never expect from him. And
He doesn't seem like the funny type.
I know.
And then all of a sudden it's just hilarious. I love his voices.
With Omega Star 7, with anything I do, it's same with being in bands. Like, I don't care who you are. I don't care what you look like. I don't care how experienced you are. What I really care about is that you are invested in what you're doing. So when I have someone show up, and I won't say who, but I've had someone reach out to James and I and really sell themselves in that original email that was like, James and I looked at it, we don't have a role for them yet, but we are going to find one. Because this person was just perfect and like understood exactly what we're about. And that's important
I
to
must
me.
know what it said.
It was just, you can tell they listened to Omega Star 7 and you can tell that they knew we enjoyed absurdism, and just the way they just introduced themselves was very, very crazy. And we loved it.
By the way, I think what you meant to say earlier is I don't care where the voice talent comes from as long as they have no reverb in their studio.
That's true. I use it's surprisingly just like a little technical conversation. I actually love like a little bit of room sound. Like, I use dynamics, as you can see, and I've used this mic for a very long time because I do most of my work in EQ and preamps and all that kind of stuff and reamping. There's a lot you can do with natural room reverb, and being up on a dynamic microphone can actually be a little too intimate sounding. Whereas being about right here gives it a very natural sound. And if you have the right preamp, like this is through a cloud lifter, it gets enough volume that I'm able to work with it, versus something that would, if it was dry without a preamp, it would be very, very, very quiet and it'd be unusable. So there's little tricks. It makes it sit real nice in the mix.
Especially mixed characters and dialogue where one is really close to the mic and has no room tone, and the difference in trying to adjust the voices for that so that they match.
Yep.
That makes sense. That sounds more natural.
Yeah.
Are there any other audio producers or productions that inspire you?
So with this is I always try to like say this the right way. James and I respect the audio drama. We love our friends, again, W. Keith Timms, everyone who's worked on these, immense respect, Hannah and all those people. James and I aren't people that come from loving this medium. You know what I mean? We don't dislike it. It's just not something I grew up with, Hitchhiker's Guide, one of the most famous audio productions ever made for this kind of stuff. I saw the movie first. You know what I mean? So it was a real surprise to see that this was such a thing that you kind of get into. And I say all of that to say, when it started, Campaign Pod for me, which is an actual play podcast, would be the closest thing that would inspire what Omega Star 7 became. But because it was an actual play, I can tell you, James, both of us love actual plays. So I love Campaign, James loves Adventure Zone and Dungeons and Daddies. Those are things he loves.
Yeah.
So, but with audio production, I didn't really get into it till I made one. And then, because I found out it existed and I learned a lot about it. I went back and listened to all the old classics, War of the Worlds and Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I've listened to the original BBC productions of The Thing and stuff like that, just so I could get a better idea of what I should expect I'm making.
It makes sense knowing your backstory, and I think it also explains your fan base. And you have, I think, a different fan base and probably more expansive because of where you're coming from with audio drama. So like you said, we're musicians. It was musicians and D&Ders more interested in tabletop in the beginning and doing live reads. And that comes out in your work. That's why it sounds natural. That's why the dialogue is so punchy,
I know.
right?
Yeah.
And I think that's a really neat addition to the space. And like you, I had to go back and kind of relearn audio drama and re-listen. I had come across some BBC productions and stuff, but to me it was just kind of, amped up audiobooks, which I loved, but it wasn't the same thing. So coming from this angle, I think is really cool. But it makes sense. There's no one person in the space that you're like, oh, I want to be like them. It's a different approach. Yeah. So is there a larger message that you're wanting to share with Omega Star 7 and with Dirt and Dust?
I mean, if you could find some messages in Omega Star 7, please tell me what they are. But no, that's not true. I don't like messaging and signaling in story. And, it's not that you can't do that. I prefer people make what they want to make. That's important to me. But for me personally, I like to present an idea and be like, what do you think about this? You know what I mean? That's my big thing. So Dirt and Dust, like the idea was, we go backwards. Are we putting too much of ourselves in this scene? We've had to stop and rewrite scenes because I was like, this character is supposed to not be like this at all. And I'm letting myself shine through a little too much. And
that's usually a good thing.
I like things to be very, unbiased in the story. What really is right? What really is wrong? Omega Star 7 never really dealt with those themes until the end. And it was very, very clear who was the bad guy. There was never like So this, with Dirt and Dust, I want to set up trolley situations, not real ones, but I want to set up like an actual theme where people actually have to think about what was the right thing to do there. And so I don't have a message I want to present. I just want to present a story that people can really think about after it's done.
This is really inspiring me, actually. I take a novel approach, and it's narration heavy. It's like an audiobook. And so much of my philosophy bleeds out in my work. And there's a lot of, almost political, religious undertones underneath it all.
That's okay, I think that's a good way. Like, I don't know. I find that making anything creative comes with like the cross section of three things. It's what you know, what you can do, and what you want to do. Those three things kind of come together in like a weird Venn diagram, and your story is supposed to be right in the center. And sometimes we veer off into the things that I'm really good at this, so of course I'm going to do it this way and actually hurt the story in the long run. Or I really love this, and you're not thinking about the story at large. But there's just this combination of, again, what you do, what you like, what you know how to do, what you want to do, and what you love to do, or what you love. Finding those three things and making a story out of that is, I find, the easiest way to do it, because all of us want to sit down and say, I want to write a fantasy story. I've wanted to write like a Legend of Zelda Ghibli type story for my entire life. It'll never happen. I just don't think that's in me. You know what I mean? But there are aspects of it that I could bring over into my story. I love in Studio Ghibli, most villains aren't really villainous. And it's nice to bring that concept into the stories I tell. So
I don't know, though. I'm rethinking this. I'm inspired by your approach, because if you step back, you take a more DM type approach. You're like, I'm going to establish the world, the rules of the world, and give a basic summary of like, this is where we start, this is where we end, but then let the characters really run with it. Even if you're a sole writer, you can then step in with the characters and play like they would really interact with the world. And it's not so, this is right, this is wrong, this is the truth, this isn't, this is the message. And instead you just let the characters play it out like you would in Dungeons and Dragons, right? And I think one of the reasons why I'm struggling with dialogue and why dialogue is so amazing in Omega Star 7 is because of this principle. It's like, how would the characters interact in it? What would they say? Yeah. Who is the character? It's much more based on that than this really strong message you're trying to push in the story.
Yeah, like I said, like if you stay true to yourself, the message you want to present will come out. If that makes sense? You know what I mean? Like, because you were able to, because then this is a very divisive opinion, but I think everybody, shares the same shades of opinions, and people are on opposite spectrum of each other, sure, but you could see a villain and a hero share the same opinion about something, but because that villain and the hero are both you wrote them, you made them, you created them, you made the playground for them to be in. So your feelings, it all came from somewhere. That's how you can always tell when something's like plagiarized or derivative versus something that really feels new, because the more you make of the world versus you like forcing the world is how you can really make your own stories. And if you have a messaging you want to get across, it does come through. It's just a little more subtle. It's how we see, like in books, why That's why in English class, we all had to read a paragraph and figure out what the author was really trying to say. You know what I mean?
It wasn't to try to get to the truth of what he was trying to say. It was just your interpretation, or are you saying there is a message there that needed to be? Well,
See what I'm saying?
right.
That's why
Mm.
Hemingway, like, what was like, this is, people say this phrase was Hemingway, but it was not. I forget exactly what it was, but it was, sorry for such the long letter. I would have written less if I had more time. That is, like, it was not Hemingway, but it's attributed to him. But someone,
Yeah.
the less you can write about something, the better. Like, that's why there's so little monologuing. There was a lot of monologuing in the first episode of Dirt and Dust, which is out for everyone to listen to. But we've pulling it back because I want to introduce the world. But other than that, Megastar 7, not only is monologuing very, very sparse, it's also like chastised in the humor. When someone monologues in a Megastar 7, they're usually chastised for it. And
Yes.
it's just because, like, we don't, in the audio sphere, I'm not making an audiobook. I would, I'd love to one of these days, but my goal is to, create a story that feels like it's a movie. That's always been my thing.
Yes. And I think you pulled it off really well. Yeah.
I
like
hope. It was
that.
the last 3 years of my life, so.
Yeah. Touche. But like you said, I mean, that quote summarizes the struggle of writing perfectly, which is you want to summarize, bring it down, simplify it, and breeze over it, move on.
Yeah.
Go to the dialogue. It doesn't have to be this big monologue. It's a real struggle. And you can tell when people are new at writing, it comes out that way, I think. Like with me.
I still struggle every day. I actually found I was replaying Red Dead Redemption again to get some feelings on like what a Western is. I was playing Red Dead 2 again. And I actually, Arthur Morgan does a monologue at the beginning of each chapter. And chapter 2's monologue is literally like 3 sentences long, but it tells you exactly what's happening. That's kind of what I'm going for now. It's like monologuing is good, but self-stroking is not. Like, we all want to like paint these wide, beautiful pictures with words, but it's really hard to, because you're going to lose listeners that way. It is what it is. I mean, but again, it goes back to, if that's what you want to do, you should do it, because there's an audience for everything. That's always been my thing. So you shouldn't listen to what I have my opinion on. If you want to make these beautiful monologues and these like adventurous worlds that almost feel like an audiobook, but it's not, then you should do that. That sounds like a real fun thing to do. I just can't do it. You know what I mean?
This wisdom also applies to people writing their own bios. So
true.
note to everyone out there writing their own little biography. You can monologue, but don't self-aggrandize. Keep it simple.
Oh, yeah.
So let's take a detour, if that's okay,
Of course.
and dream a little bit about the future. So if you had someone come in, say a patron that came in and wanted to sponsor Dirt and Dust and give you 50 grand, 100 grand, I don't know, how much do you need?
Well, I don't think it could be a TV show.
No?
Are we saying 100K as like the actual number, or just like a lot of money? Because I know how much a video game costs, and it's about 100K sometime for like a decent one. I would definitely have a video game made. I actually had a concept for a video game for Dirt and Dust, which was like the Oregon Trail, but you're in a mech.
Oh, yeah.
It'd be really fun, like a lot of mini games and like that kind of stuff in between areas. I'd really love to play that, but I could see like Dirt and Dust would be a cool video game. I maybe would lose a lot of that money to fund it into a tabletop game, but that's kind of difficult because Lancer exists, and Lancer's an incredible mech-based post-apocalyptic type RPG. So, but if I had like, if someone's like, listen, what do you want to do? I'd be like, dude, I would love to see a Megastar 7 be a cartoon, but I would love to see Dirt and Dust get like the full, either a movie or some kind of limited series on Amazon or something, because I'm really, really loving these Amazon limited series. So
Yeah,
I would
that'd
love
be
to see
so
that.
much fun. I would rather that, I think, even than a game.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about Dirt and Dust, but for Omega Star 7, yeah.
I know. Well,
That'd be
yeah,
so cool.
either like just, I would love to see, because we are making visual audio drama. It's it's everything but the visual aspect. But if there was a visual there, you could easily animate it. You know what I mean? Like, that's why animation makes sense, because we still have a lot of those mother files. So we can give the audio to someone, they can animate it. If I was being realistic, I would, if I had 50K or 100K, I'd hire an animation team, not re-record anything, so we could use all that money towards animation and just give them the recordings, maybe remaster them and say, here, make an animation for this. And then,
Oh, cool.
I would guerrilla release it on YouTube and hope that releasing would be enough to push it into a more like mainstream area where we could see it grow as a, not just an audio drama, but like a setting, like Dune or Star Wars or Lord of the Rings, where there's so many, because those kind of things become so big that you're able to, it's a franchise. That's the word I was looking for. You see these books like The Hobbit, all started with one book, and then it became Lord of the Rings, and then there's movies, there's video games, there's books, there's compendiums, there's role-playing games. Same with Dune, same with Star Wars, same with Harry Potter. I'd love to see either of these things become a franchise. And it'd be interesting to see an audio drama start a franchise, because I guess it kind of already did with Hitchhiker's Guide, but I don't think a movie, 6 books, and audio series. I guess there's a TV show. Okay, never mind, I lied. That it would be it'd be the second one.
It seems like at this point too, it'd make a really great interactive graphic novel.
Oh yeah.
Going in that direction.
That would be cool.
And then from there to an animation isn't too far a cry, right? I mean,
I would love to see, this is like a real deep cut, but I would like to hire Telltale Games to make a visual, point and click adventure. I think it'd be a really, either setting would be really cool for that kind of thing.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about a campaign? Could totally be a D&D campaign,
It
right?
could. I mean, we've talked about rehashing like Omega Star 7 as like another tabletop, and I was like, it's just too much work. When I was doing it, it was like 2 hours. Like, what do you cut? Like, in doing Omega Star 7, you knew what to cut. You would be like, oh, this is not part of the dialogue. In D&D, some of the cutaways where everyone's just laughing with each other is hilarious. And it's fun, so why would I get rid of that? But at the same time, so like you have to balance like being a podcast and being an audio drama in actual plays, because you're still a podcast. Like the players are still part of the world, whereas the actors in an audio drama fade into their characters. If that makes sense,
Well, and both. That's why Patreon exists.
I know. It's just not where time exists, unfortunately.
Where do you see yourself and the team Omega Star 7 in 5 years?
Still telling stories.
Yeah.
I don't know like what the plan is. Will there be more Omega Star 7? Will there be a season 2 of Dirt and Dust? I don't know. I know what I like to do. I know James likes to do it too. The other people, Chrissy, Graham, and Chris, who have helped with Omega Star 7 for the past 2 years now. I know we all still want to tell stories. So I would assume in 5 years, whether it's as Team Omega Star 7 or doing our own things, it would continue more stories.
I'm glad to hear that. I suspected a little bit that you were getting exhausted, that you wanted to move into music and just kind of step away.
You'll learn as a musician. Once you hit 31, I do have a career in music already. It's hard to do. I play in bands, but like the life of a touring musician and I have 2 children, I'm married. I work a very intensive, like 9-hour-a-day job that all deals with music. Music to me is the last place I get to have fun, truly have fun. So it'd be hard to be tired. I do get exhausted though. I got very exhausted with Omega Star 7. By the end, I was like really tired of this whole thing.
Yeah, I bet.
But I'm happy to still have a spark that I can be like, let's do something else and continue. But I did need a month of just radio silence. I needed to be like totally detached.
Yeah.
So.
Well, my hope for you and for Omega Star 7 is that you can start outsourcing a lot of the other extraneous work that you need to take off your plate, and that you pull in enough money, not only from fans, but in other expansions and stuff, that you can step down from other work, focus more on writing, because I love the stories.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Well, I guess my final 2 questions, because I come from the voice acting space, my husband and I are voice actors and narrators, I have to ask everyone that comes on the show, what advice do you give voice actors, and how do they work with your productions?
We pretty much operate in a very unorthodox way if the rest of our conversation hasn't kind of already shown that. If you really want to work with us, we put out the casting calls, but if you haven't noticed, it's for like the smaller characters because we've already picked people that we want to be on the show. We're like, this is the guy. Like, I remember when we did Ash Warden in the remake of season 1 of Omega Star 7, I knew I wanted Harlan Guthrie. I was like, I want him to play that character. I think the Malevolence, creator would be a great person for that very scary character.
Mm-hmm.
We handpicked people, and then we say, okay, there's all these like extras and small time 10-line characters. Now we put out a casting call. If you want to be one of those major characters that we give like collaboration rights to, like we collaborate with everybody, voice actors, people will be like, what do you think about this line? Or can I say this instead of this? We let people do that. We don't ever make people say something a specific way. And if you want to be one of those people, I think just joining our Discord, being friends, palling around, sending wild, unhinged emails to us, like stuff like that. Like,
right.
It's usually the best way to be like, W. Keith Tim once said that we are basically an open door. We're like a club where entry is free, but it's still a club, and you gotta walk into the club. If you're sitting there refreshing our Twitter and being like, when's the next casting call? Just know we already have I have a list here of people and the characters that I put into, and into Dirt and Dust. And I already have a listing of actors I want for each one of them. You know what I mean? Like the main characters. Yeah. So just get to know me. And it's so easy. I'm so available to talk to. You know what I mean?
Yes, thank you. You are. And that's what it is. It's community. You get involved. You talk to people. I mean, my partner and I were just starting our own because we decided we wanted to create the characters we want to voice. Sure. But, just to summarize too, because you already answered this question in another way earlier, where your general advice to voice talent is be spirited and natural. I don't care where you come from. It's more about the emotion in the voice, the character, and really being into it. You can tell excitement. And I'm rewording it. I know.
You did it better than I did, so.
And also don't fuss too much about your space. It doesn't have to be 100% soundproof. You don't have to be this close to your mic. Be natural, step away a little bit and be into the character. So
I agree.
Perfect. And the final question is just, how do we follow up with you? Where do people find your work? What is your favorite way to be contacted? And your least favorite?
Well, least favorite way would be like texting me at my job. People have done that.
Oh, wow.
Listen, I shouldn't say it like that because what I do, I am available to talk to. If you just want to talk to me about like working on my show, don't reach out to my employer who I don't like to broadcast what I do, but
people have done that?
I have met people through that and it's been really cool, but like my least favorite is don't text my work line, which is available to anybody if you type in my name on Google. So
I see.
If you want to know where I work, type my name into Google and it'll pop up. That being said, the best way is most likely, if you want like an immediate response, just go on Discord. I'm in multiple audio drama Discords. Join Omega Star 7's Discord. It's at the bottom of every one of our show notes. The link is right there on an unexpired link. You can just hit it and join right from the show notes. We're all available. We answer all the time. You can talk to me, James. Most people who have played a major character, Luna, Joe, myself, James, Chrissy, Chris, Graham, we're all, admins and mods in there. We're all available to talk to. And then if you want to ask me something personal, you can just DM me and say, hey, I have this idea, or hey, I would love to be on your show. What do I got to do it? And I'll give you an honest answer. I've never once tried to portray myself as someone who's not approachable.
That's nice. So you're not going to say, why the hell are you DMing me?
No, I would be like, well, what do you want to do?
Well, cool. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
Of course.
I know you had to squeeze it in there and jump in on the call.
I'm happy to do it.
Nice seeing you in person.
Likewise.
Just as nice in person as you are on Discord.
I try to be.
Thanks again, and have a lovely day.
Hey, you too.
Thank you for joining us here at RAD Journeys. If you appreciated this interview, like and subscribe to catch the next one. You can also find us at arcanefiction.com or on anywhere you listen to your podcasts at Arcane Fiction, or on socials at Arcane Fiction or arcaneproductions.com. Thank you so much for your support. Until next time.